There's a moment each night that almost no one notices. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't arrive with drama. It slips in quietly, somewhere between your last thought and your last effort to stay awake. You turn off the light. You lie still. Your body stops moving. But your mind does something very different. It begins to cross a threshold. Not fully awake, not yet asleep. A strange in-between state where reality loosens its grip and something deeper begins to surface. This is the moment before sleep, and it is one of the most psychologically active states the human mind ever enters. Even though it feels like you're doing nothing. Most people believe that sleep begins when thinking stops, that once you lie down, the brain simply powers off. But neuroscience tells a different story. As your body relaxes, your brain does not slow down evenly. Some systems quiet, others awaken. The parts of your mind responsible for logic, planning, and self-control, they begin to dim. But the parts responsible for memory, emotion, imagination, and meaning, they come alive. This is why thoughts you managed all day suddenly break through at night. Not because you're weak, not because you lack discipline, but because the mind is shifting modes. During the day, your attention points outward. You respond, you react, you solve, you perform. Your brain is in task mode. But as night arrives and stimulation fades, the mind turns inward. Psychologists call this the activation of the default mode, the mental state associated with self-reflection, memory recall, and emotional processing. This is when the mind stops asking, "What do I need to do?" and starts asking, "What does this all mean?" And meaning is never neutral. Meaning carries emotion. Have you ever noticed how thoughts at night feel different? Not just more frequent, but heavier. A comment from years ago can suddenly feel sharp. A small regret can expand into a life judgment. A vague unease can turn into a full emotional weight in your chest. This happens because the brain's filters are lowering. During the day, your mind actively suppresses irrelevant or uncomfortable thoughts so you can function. At night, that suppression relaxes. Not as a mistake, but as a necessity. Because before sleep, the mind begins a nightly process of integration. It reviews the day, it sorts experiences, it tags memories with emotion. It decides what to keep, what to archive, what to rehearse. You are not spiraling, you are processing. Think of the moment before sleep as the brain's quiet accounting period. No deadlines, no distractions, no performance. Just an internal review. How did today feel? What was unresolved? What hurt more than I admitted? What mattered that I ignored? These questions rarely appear as words. They appear as sensations. A tight chest, a lump in the throat, a sudden sadness with no clear cause. But there is a cause. The mind is balancing emotional books, and emotions never like to be rushed. At night, your defenses are down, not emotionally, biologically. Levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, drop. Adrenaline fades. Muscle tension releases. These changes are meant to help you rest. But they also remove the armor you wear all day, the armor that keeps difficult feelings contained. That's why emotions you thought you handled suddenly return. You didn't fail to process them earlier. You simply didn't have the safety to feel them fully. Another reason the mind changes before sleep is simple but profound. You're no longer being observed. No one expects anything from you. No one is watching your reactions. No one needs you to be okay. For the first time all day, your mind is alone with itself. And when the audience leaves, the truth steps on stage. This is why nighttime thoughts feel more honest, more raw, sometimes uncontrollable, sometimes painfully accurate. The pre-sleep state is not built for productivity. It's built for transition. Your brain is slowly decoupling from external reality. Time becomes slippery. Memories overlap. Logic loosens. Images become symbolic. You might notice thoughts that don't finish, emotions without stories, vivid mental images, certain realizations that feel important, then fade. This is the mind preparing to dream, and dreaming begins before you fall asleep. Many people fear this mental state. They think, why am I like this at night? Why can't I just switch off? Why do I feel more sensitive, more emotional, more fragile? But this state is not regression, it is return. A return to a more ancient way of experiencing reality, where emotion and thought were not separate, where meaning mattered more than efficiency. The modern world teaches us to stay in task mode constantly. Night gently pulls us back. Before sleep fully arrives, there is always a gate, a quiet psychological doorway. On one side, the structured self, the planner, the performer, the controlled version of you. On the other side, the emotional self, the remembering self, the dreaming self. Every night you pass through this gate, whether you notice it or not. And what waits on the other side is not emptiness, it is depth. In the next chapter, we'll step deeper into this inner world. Because once the mind crosses this threshold, something very specific begins to happen. Memories surface, old conversations replay, Regrets grow louder, not randomly, but purposefully. Chapter 2: Why the Past Returns at Night. There is a reason the past waits further dark. Not the loud past, not the obvious memories, but the quiet ones. The conversations you thought were finished. The moments you barely noticed at the time. The choices that didn't feel important until later. They don't interrupt your day. They wait, and then, when the lights go out, they rise. During the day, your brain is selective. It prioritizes what helps you survive the next hour. Emails, tasks, social cues, immediate problems. Memory retrieval is constrained by usefulness. But before sleep, usefulness no longer matters. The brain shifts into a mode focused on integration, connecting experiences into coherent sense of self. This is when memory becomes emotional instead of practical. Not what happened, but how it felt. And feelings don't expire on a schedule. The mind has a deep dislike for unfinished experiences. Psychologists call this the zygomatic effect, the tendency for incomplete or unresolved events to remain more active in memory than completed ones. At night, these unfinished loops come forward, not because you're dwelling, but because the brain finally has space to close them, or at least attempt to. That argument you never resolved, that apology you never received, that moment where you stayed silent when you wanted to speak. They resurface because they were never emotionally concluded. Sleep is the brain's attempt to file them away. Have you noticed how trivial moments feel enormous at night? A sentence someone said casually, a look you didn't understand, a reaction you wish you'd handled differently. This happens because emotional memory does not scale logically. The amygdala, the brain's emotional tagging system, doesn't measure importance by size. It measures by impact. If something made you feel rejected, ashamed, invisible, or unsafe, it gets flagged. Unflagged memories stay active until they are integrated. At night, integration begins. Before sleep, the mind runs something like a highlight reel, but not of success, of meaning. It asks, what did I miss? What still hurts? What needs understanding? This replay is not judgment, it's sense-making. Your mind is trying to protect future you by learning from past you, even if it hurts. Regret is a uniquely human emotion. It requires imagination, the ability to picture alternate versions of reality. And imagination becomes stronger as logical control weakens, which is exactly what happens before sleep. The brain starts asking, what if I had said something else? What if I had chosen differently? What if I missed my chance? These thoughts are painful not because they are useless, but because they signal values. You don't regret what didn't matter. You regret what did. Night doesn't invent regret, it reveals it. Sometimes the memories that appear at night don't feel adult, they feel younger. You may feel small, embarrassed, not good enough, unseen, even if the memory itself is from adulthood. This is because emotional memory is layered. When a current event resembles an old emotional wound, the brain links them. Nighttime quiet allows those layers to surface. You're not reliving the past, you are feeling its echo. Often, memory doesn't arrive as a thought. It arrives as a sensation, a tight chest, a sinking stomach, a sudden heaviness. That's because emotional memory is stored not just in the brain, but in the nervous system. Before sleep, as your body relaxes, those sensations become noticeable again. The body remembers what the mind avoided. Many people believe nighttime memory replay means they are stuck, broken, or incapable of letting go. But this replay has a purpose. It prepares the brain for dreaming. Dreams are not random stories, they are symbolic integrations. The mind's way of weaving unresolved emotion into narrative. Memory returns before sleep because it's about to be processed in another form. Not logic, symbol. When people fight nighttime memories, they often try to distract themselves. Scrolling, noise, forced positivity. Sometimes this works short term, but suppression teaches the brain that these memories are dangerous, which makes them return stronger. The mind says, "This matters, you are not listening." And it waits for the next quiet moment. What helps is not analysis, it's acknowledgement. When a memory surfaces, try this instead. Not "why am I thinking this?" but "what is this asking to be seen?" Not "I should be over this," but "this still matters to some part of me." You don't have to fix the past. You only have to let the memory complete its emotional arc. Sometimes being felt is enough. During the day, we narrate our lives to others. At night, we narrate them to ourselves. Without editing, without performance, without applause. That honesty can feel heavy, but it's also how integration happens. It's how the mind prepares to rest. In the next chapter, we'll look forward instead of backward, because the mind before sleep doesn't only revisit the past, it also confronts something else, something quieter, something heavier. The fear of time passing, of potential unrealized, of becoming or not becoming who you thought you would be. Chapter 3: The Quiet Fear of Falling Behind. There is a particular thought that only appears at night. It doesn't shout, it doesn't panic, it simply sits beside you, and it says, "Is this all there is?" After the past has spoken, the mind does something else. It looks forward, not with excitement, but with comparison. During the day, you are protected from this by motion, by schedules, by tasks that create the feeling of progress. At night, movement stops. And when movement stops, the mind measures. Where am I now? Where did I think I'd be? How much time have I used? And how much is left? These questions don't appear because you're failing. They appear because the brain is wired to track trajectory. Almost everyone carries a private timeline. By this age, I thought I'd have this. By now, I should feel different. I should be more confident, more settled, more certain. These timelines are rarely spoken out loud, but they are deeply felt. And nighttime is when the discrepancy becomes visible. The gap between expectation and reality widens in the dark. Not because it's growing, but because there's nothing left to distract you from seeing it. Time feels different before sleep. Hours stretch, years collapse. You might remember childhood vividly, then realize how long ago it was. You might think of a plan you postponed, then feel how quickly time moved since then. This happens because the brain's sense of time is emotional, not chronological. Periods filled with novelty feel long in memory. Periods filled with repetition feel short. At night, the mind notices this contrast, and it can feel like life is slipping by faster than it should. Contrary to what many think, this fear isn't about getting older. It's about meaning density. The question beneath the worry is rarely "How old am I?" It's "Am I living in a way that feels real?" You don't fear time passing when your days feel aligned. You fear time when your days feel like placeholders. Night removes the illusion of busyness and reveals whether life feels inhabited. At night, the mind fills in missing information. You imagine others sleeping peacefully, certain, satisfied, ahead. But this is projection. You're comparing your inner world to their imagined outer world, which is always unfair. But the brain does it anyway, because it seeks reference points, and when none are available, it invents them. This nighttime fear isn't loud anxiety, it's quieter, heavier. It feels like standing still while the world moves forward. It's the sense that you're late to something, even if you don't know what. This is not depression, it's existential alertness. The mind asking, is my life becoming what it's supposed to become? And the discomfort comes from not having a clear answer. No one talks about this enough. There is no universal schedule. The idea that life unfolds in a straight, predictable sequence is a cultural story, not a biological one. Human lives loop, pause, restart, detour. But at night, stripped of reassurance, the mind forgets this. It wants certainty, and certainty is the one thing existence doesn't offer. This fear shows up before sleep because sleep requires surrender. To sleep is to let go of control, and letting go makes you confront what you can't control: time, outcomes, the future version of yourself. So the mind does a last scan, as if asking, are we okay to stop now? Have we done enough? Is it safe to rest? If the answer feels unclear, the fear lingers. This fear is not an enemy. It is information. It tells you where your values are misaligned with your current life. It shows you what you care about, not what you lack. You don't fear falling behind in areas that don't matter to you. The ache reveals desire. And desire is not a flaw, it's direction. You don't need to answer the question tonight. You don't need a plan or clarity or resolution. Sometimes the mind just needs permission to ask without being silenced, to acknowledge, yes, I want more. Yes, something feels unfinished. Yes, I don't know what comes next. That honesty, on its own, can soften the fear. In the next chapter, we'll move from time to connection. Because when the mind quiets and the world disappears, another longing often rises. A longing not for success, but for closeness, for being held, for being understood, for not being alone in the dark. Chapter 4: Why Night Amplifies Loneliness. There is a kind of loneliness that only appears at night. Not the obvious kind, not the absence of people, but the feeling of being unaccompanied inside your own mind. During the day, connection is simulated constantly. Messages, voices, crowds, background noise. Even when you're alone, you're rarely alone with yourself. But at night, those signals disappear. And when external connection fades, the nervous system looks inward and asks a quiet question. Is anyone here with me? If the answer feels uncertain, loneliness rises, not as panic, but as ache. Human brains evolved in groups. For most of history, night was dangerous and never solitary. people slept close, shared warmth, shared sound, shared presence. To be alone in the dark once meant vulnerability. That wiring never left. So when you lie awake in silence, the brain doesn't interpret it as neutral. It interprets it as exposure. That's why even emotionally independent people feel a pull for connection at night. It's not weakness, it's ancient. At night, the mind stops managing impressions. You're no longer focused on being strong, capable, or composed. So the emotional truth surfaces. Who made me feel safe? Who knew me without effort? Who am I still holding space for? This can be a partner, a friend, a parent, someone you never fully had, or even a version of yourself that felt more connected than you do now. Nighttime loneliness rarely has a clear target. It's not always, I miss this person. It's often, I want someone to be here. I don't want to carry my thoughts alone. I want to be understood without explaining. This is not about romance. It's about resonance, about having your inner world mirrored by another. Loneliness is not just emotional, it's physical. Studies show that social isolation activates the same pain pathways as physical injury. That's why loneliness feels heavy in the chest, or hollow in the stomach, or cold even under blankets. At night, when sensory input decreases, these bodily signals become louder. Your body is saying something vital is missing. Have you noticed how at night you replay conversations or invent them? You imagine saying what you never said, being heard the way you weren't, being comforted the way you needed. This is not escapism. It's the mind's attempt to simulate connection when real connection isn't available. Your brain is trying to regulate itself to feel less alone. You can feel lonely even in a relationship, even in a family, even with friends. Because loneliness isn't about proximity, it's about emotional attunement. At night, when distractions fall away, the mind notices whether you feel truly seen. If that sense is missing, the ache appears. People often judge themselves for feeling lonely at night. They think, I should be fine. I have people. I shouldn't feel this way. But nighttime doesn't make you weaker. It makes you honest. It reveals what hasn't been met, not what's wrong with you. Loneliness becomes painful when it's treated as a problem. But when it's treated as information, it softens. Instead of asking, how do I stop feeling this? Try asking, what kind of connection am I craving right now? Not who, but how. Understanding, warmth, presence, safety. You can sometimes offer a small part of that to yourself, enough to quiet the nervous system. This is why voices help at night. Soft music, gentle narration, a presence that doesn't demand anything. Your mind is not seeking stimulation, it's seeking company, someone or something to share the dark with. That's not dependency, it's regulation. Loneliness doesn't mean you will always feel this way. It means your system is reminding you that connection matters. And that reminder tends to arrive when nothing else is loud enough to drown it out, which is why it arrives before sleep. Chapter 6: The Soft Surrender into Sleep. There comes a moment when the mind stops asking questions, not because it found answers, but because it realizes it doesn't need them tonight. This is the final shift before sleep, the surrender. Sleep is not an action. You cannot force it. You cannot chase it. You cannot think your way into it. Sleep arrives only when resistance ends, when the mind loosens its grip, when the body feels safe enough to let go, when the nervous system decides the night will hold you. That decision is not logical, it's biological and emotional. Before sleep, the mind releases control in stages. First, it lets go of tasks, then identity, then story. Thoughts stop forming sentences, images replace words, meaning becomes symbolic. This is not confusion, it's translation. Your waking mind speaks in logic. Your sleeping mind speaks in metaphor. The shift feels strange because you are changing languages. Have you ever noticed that insight sometimes arrives right before you drift off? A sudden understanding, a quiet oh, a feeling of acceptance. This happens because the mind is no longer trying to defend itself. Without the pressure to act, the truth can surface gently, not as urgency, but as peace. At this stage, the body becomes the guide. Breath deepens, muscles soften, the jaw unclenches, the heart rate slows. The body says, "I've got this now." And the mind, tired of carrying everything alone, agrees. To fall asleep is an act of trust. You trust that the world will continue without you, that nothing terrible will happen if you stop watching, that you are allowed to disappear for a while. This is why sleep is difficult for people who had to stay alert too early in life. Letting go once felt dangerous, but here in this moment, you are safe enough. Even if the mind still whispers doubts. This is the truth the night offers. You do not need to fix your life before sleeping. You do not need closure. You do not need answers. You're allowed to rest unfinished. Sleep is not a reward for productivity, it's a biological right. And rest does not mean giving up, it means restoring. As you hover on the edge of sleep, thoughts become slower, less personal, less sharp. You are no longer thinking, you are drifting. And drifting is not losing control, it is being carried. If your mind feels heavy before sleep, it doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It means your mind is doing what it was designed to do when the world grows quiet. To review, to feel, to remember, to release. Nighttime thoughts are not enemies. They are the mind's way of clearing space for rest. So tonight, you don't have to fight them. You don't have to chase sleep. You can simply allow the night to do its work. Let thoughts come. Let them pass. Let the body settle. Nothing important will be lost by resting, but something important may be restored. This has been Midnight Mind. Thank you for staying with yourself in the quiet. Now, you don't need to listen anymore. You can let go. Sleep will take it from here.